Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of VectoScalar Tech Talk. I'm your host, Vikas Jain. And today we are going to discuss a very important topic which industry is looking for, the artificial intelligence. As you know, VectoScalar Tech Talk is an online live show on technology and digital transformation shared by senior leaders in industry. And in this episode, our guest speaker, Anibal Abarca, CTO Wizeline, is going to cover insights about building your organization's AI strategy the right way. Let me introduce Anibal and provide his career experience to you. Anibal is the CTO of Wizeline. Prior to Wizeline, Anibal served as Business Partner Evangelist at Microsoft and go-to-market advisor at Ooyala. An accomplished entrepreneur, Anibal founded Rutanet, a startup that connected freight trucks with available capacity with shippers, and Aventones, a ride-sharing company acquired by BlaBlaCar. He is passionate about mentoring others and budding entrepreneurs. Welcome, Anibal, to our show.
Thank you, Vikas. It's a pleasure to be here, and I think it's going to be hopefully an exciting conversation and useful for the audience.
For sure. So tell us more about when we talk about building AI strategy. So how the evolution of technology is having happening.
Yes, thank you. I believe that we are in the and this is something that probably we have all heard, right? Like this is a huge shift in terms of a new, I would say, like a new technology era or a new technology revolution in a sense, right? Like what happened last year with the incursion of ChatGPT allowed everyone to have the feeling and to be able to interact with something very powerful, that is artificial intelligence, right? And when I think about artificial intelligence in this sense, is that going back probably to the beginning of the history of artificial intelligence, and let's say with the Turing test, right? Like with Alan Turing talking about the moment when you can't identify whether what the entity that you are talking about, the entity that you are interacting is a human or it's a machine. But when we look at that evolution from the lenses of in at which point in time the technology, artificial intelligence, or the algorithms that we're building with data science and machine learning are reaching the point of human parity, right? And we can look at that, at this history of AI with that lenses. So what we saw last year with ChatGPT is that it can create, right? Like it can create as only humans have been able to do it. It can understand a question and it can respond with an answer that looks like a human, right? So and in that moment is AI is not longer something that is available only to very technical experts and experts in mathematics and experts in data engineering and software, but it's available for everyone, right? So that's the beginning of a huge revolution. When I think about the evolution of technologies, how companies have been working and evolving in the way they work. And it's not only about technology. Technology is an enabler, technology is an accelerator and a facilitator of the outcomes that we can produce as a company, as an organization, and even as a human, or like as individual. So the way we see this and the way we're talking about this with our customers is we see, let's say, three main phases before the new era where we are seeing. The first one, and just to simplify it, we call it traditional. And in traditional, companies are in a very, let's say, unflexible organization. It's very rigid in the way you work. It's very hierarchical. And that connects to the way your technology is built, right? It's mostly, it's a monolithic architecture. It's hard to change. Times to deploy are very long. Data is very centralized and hard to get. The launching new products, experimentation doesn't happen. That's traditional, right? Like you can think about that stage and you can immediately see the pain points, and you can connect how those pain points are related not only to the technology you are using, but also to the way you are working. Then we can move into the modern approach, and the modern approach starts to become much more flexible, starts to delve into, let's think about product thinking, right? You think about the customers, you have to respond to the customer needs. Of course, you are building a digital strategy, you are building automation into the ways of working, you are creating kind of much more distributed organizations focused on business out and organizational hierarchies. And the technology starts to move fast as the business is able to respond as well faster to the market needs. And then we call the third stage in that is best practice. And in best practice is taking that into all of those evolutions, removing the complexity of technology to actually leverage the full power of the new technology that we're using. And that goes into, if we think about technology, we can think about microservices. If we think about data platforms, we can think about data mesh. If we think about organizational structure, we can look at the literature of how Amazon works, right? Like the two pizza teams with a very distributed platform thinking. And how you get there is a combination of both a mindset and a technology evolution. And that allows you to reduce complexity on the things that are far away from the customer, that are not necessarily adding value to the differentiators of the company, but also enabling the company to move faster and to adapt faster. So that's the technology evolution. And the question that we're asking, and I would love your thoughts on this, is, okay, that's true, right? Like, and we can see it, and we have been thinking about this for the past 10 years, right? From Agile, well, Agile comes before that, right? But from the past 10 years, probably with DevOps, with chaos engineering, with the data platforms transformation and everything, what's going to look like the next phase, right? Like, what is the next phase that we're calling AI native? How is that going to work? Like, what type of platforms are we going to see? What type of products are we going to be building? How are those products going? The technology that we're going to use, and that's kind of what we are, and that's what I'm mainly focused on right now. Of course, helping companies to move as fast as they can to, and as we can, to help them achieve the best practices stage. But then after that is, okay, what is next? What is AI native? And that's what I'm very interested in.
Okay, that's interesting insight, and a very critical observation that Anibal you made, that it's not just the technology what we are doing, it's actually the business. The earlier the kind of businesses that were there, and the technology was similar, aligned to that kind of business. And so we started the traditional approach, then customer centric. We can say we were more agile. We started building practices like agile development, and now the focus is coming to the AI native. So how the business environment will be there in this new environment, which you are calling AI native environment?
I think it can change in many ways. I do think there is going to be a component that is a new, like a new generation of technology. Right? Like, as we have seen, the going from on flexible, monolithic, huge systems that basically make the organizations to embrace whatever those systems are made for, to hyper customized development that is going to enable the company to not only react faster to the customer needs, but actually build differentiators with technology. Let's call that microservices, right? And it doesn't matter what is the actual technology that you are using, it's the outcomes that you are able to achieve. I would say, like, what is next, right? Like, what is next in terms of reducing complexity? What is next in terms of velocity? I can think about, and I have been observing and following very closely, like, what Microsoft is doing. Like, what Microsoft is doing is, if you look from the moment ChatGPT was announced to today, how many new services have they launched? How many new products with AI they have released, and now their users, their customers are using it. And I have had conversations with people in different layers of organization saying, this is incredible, right? Like this has changed completely how we work. Okay, that's one part, how we work with AI. And the other part is how companies that are building technology, what is the next generation of those products that they're going to launch? And I believe that there's going to be a new set of architecture and a lot of technology components that are in the build-up, because many of those are not there yet. But also the way we work. So we believe that AI is not it's not going to be here to kind of replace human potential and replace talent, but it's actually going to augment it, and we're calling that augmenting human intelligence. And I really like the concept of Cassie Kosirkov, and she presented this in at Collision in Toronto last this summer. It's like a long year. I was almost going to say that it was last year. But no, but she presented this concept of thinking versus thunking, right? And that, I believe, that's the other component of the concept of AI native, right? Like we're in the moment where we can augment our teams and make sure that everyone in the organization is actually thinking, right? It's creating, it's delivering value instead of thinking, which is basically just moving things around, right? Like from a computational perspective, it's just moving bytes of memory or bits of memory from one place to another in the memory stack, but it's not really adding a lot of value, or it's not adding value at all, right? And I believe that most of the work that in many cases we do is actually just thinking, right? And if we can release that to the new technology, it's going to be very, very interesting and empowering. So I believe that's another component, is organizations are going to be able to do more and to be much more creative by embracing this technology and releasing their teams to elevate into thinking instead of just thinking.
That's an interesting concept, that thinking versus thunking. And I think everyone will explore and give an insight to that question, that when I'm doing certain task in my office, am I actually thinking or just thunking and moving things around and just moving bits and pieces here and there? That's a very, very complex thing. It seems simple, but it's a complex thought to ponder upon, that whether I'm actually thinking or thinking. That's very critical. Now, when we talk about that kind of mindset where we are questioning our thinking, the way we are doing things, and augmenting human intelligence, but going back to the same question, that we all know, for any organization, building a AI strategy for paramount right now, that they should start thinking if they have not yet. So what are the key challenges that you see organizations face? Because it's easier said than done, that have a AI strategy, but what are the key challenges there that you see companies faces when they actually go and implement that AI strategy?
I I I think I will recommend always to think about this evolution of technology, with a caveat. AI, an AI native as a new technology phase or technology era, in that sense, right? Like from that best practice that we have been pushing for from the technology providers and from the technology consultants. AI native will bring a new generation of architectures, a new generation of technology and applications, right? But at the same time, the technology that we have today is enabling almost everyone to adopt generative AI or to adopt AI native solutions to embrace or to augment their work. Right? Like that's easy to see. You can see it in from GitHub Copilot to from the design UX perspective. I love an application called Wizard.io. Like just examples, right? So we are. I'm going to talk first about technology, the first, like that evolution.
Yeah.
From that perspective, is the first challenge that companies face is, okay, where is my data and what is the state of my data, right? AI, it's not going to be successful or it's not going to deliver value to the business if you don't have the right data or if your data is not available, right? So building up that foundation, building the right data platform, enabling the data to flow through different stages, different areas in the organization, and being able to build data products and enhance the data quality across the organization, that's the first step. So you have to start by understanding what is the data that you have available, or what is the data that your organization and different places in your organization or areas in your organization will need to make the right decisions, to create the right products, to respond to the market in the right way. And that starts by asking that question, and then that starts by creating that platform, which will go through, let's say that, more like building the data modern stack in your organization. That's the starting point. And it doesn't have to be like a huge project, long term. It can start in an agile way, but you have to start building the foundations, because otherwise you are not going to be able to build the right AI strategy. It doesn't have to be in here that every place in the organization has to be at the same maturity, or that every kind of, if you have a manufacturing plant, not every manufacturing plan or every manufacturing process has to be connected, right? No, that's not the idea. You have to be conscious and strategic about, okay, what are the things that are going to add the most value to my business and my customers? But it starts with that. It has to understand what's my maturity in terms of understanding the data that I have available and the data that I need, and then building the foundation of the platform. And then you can start thinking about, okay, how can I embrace the data and create data products? How can I start building better forecasting or better recommendation engines or better decision making with different techniques? Right? That's one part. The second part is, yes, there are many new products or processes that can be automated, that can be enhanced with generative AI. And that's probably not necessarily like hardcore data, but it's how do you build generative AI experiences, or how do you build in your experiences and processes generative AI to automate things. An example is, we're working with a legal company that offers a system focused on on court reporting or court records. And bringing all of the data from a court report or a court record into the system usually takes an analyst about 40 minutes, right? It's a lot of information, a lot of things that have to be copy and paste into that. But by building it with a generative AI engine, we were able to do that in just a few seconds, right? And releasing all that time from 40 minutes to just a few seconds, and probably just a couple more minutes to review that everything is okay, right? Because you will need the human in the loop to be there. So that's another example, right? But that is the concept of how can I build in new solutions that are going to add value to my customers, that are going to add value for my organization. So that's one part. But the other component is, again, how can I build a strategy to augment my team? And that's something that we are doing as well. How are we augmenting our software engineers? What is the toolkit, the AI toolkit, so they can deliver higher value? What is the toolkit for our QA engineers? What is the toolkit for our designers? What is the toolkit for our marketing team? Because we know that there are so many solutions out there that we don't even need to build, because the market is evolving so fast and they are actually pretty affordable. They're going to be able to augment by 50%, sometimes twice the productivity that they can do, or even more. And that's like, those are the two dimensions. I was like, building the data platform strategy, like understanding your data capabilities, understanding the potential of your data, and then build up on that technology. And the other part is, okay, how can I augment my team with all of these technologies mainly to increase productivity and probably quality as well. I think it's important to think about quality and productivity in that area.
That's a mind-blowing observation there. That the way you comprehended the whole thing and the importance of data, as we already know, the data is the new oil. It's already said in multiple platforms. So how we can leverage the data first. So first start thinking from the perspective of data. Second comes the generative AI experience, because there might be certain business situations or technical solution which we previously adopted based on the existing technology, but with generative AI, can we think different, and instead of thinking, start thinking in a manner that we can find that can we change the proposition now and to enable the team. That's again very important point. In between, I would like to take one question. We have a question coming from one of the viewer. Saddam Hussein is asking, what strategies can an adopt to nurture and develop the necessary talent and skill required for an AI driven environment?
That's a good question, and I think it comes again in two perspectives, right? One is from the traditional data perspective, and I think for that we like building an analytical approach and building the skills around how to how to create that analytical thinking, which is understanding first of all the business drivers, understanding the how the business works, so you can construct um, a view or the story about the business, how it works, and what are the different levers that then can be translated into or interpreted by data, and 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 that will require that. Like I was like building analytical. We have an arm. I was telling you this earlier. We have one area at Wizeline is called Wizeline Academy, right? So one of the things that we care about a lot is how do we continuously upskill and reskill our team. But Wizeline Academy is also an arm for us, or an outlet for us to deliver value to the communities where we are. And so we're always investing, and these are free courses, free boot camps in many kind of the latest digital skills that might be in demand. So we can develop that and we can deliver that to the technology communities where we participate in. So what we are doing there is, and being a technology company, we are investing a lot on building concepts of data engineering, right? Like how do you build up pipelines? How do you transform data, build different platforms in an agile way with the best practices, right? Those best practices are cloud native solutions. So that's one way to understand those new platforms and to understand those concepts. Another example is we're building courses and boot camps around machine learning and machine learning operations, which is the same thing. Okay, how do you apply the mathematical concepts? How can you build algorithms? But then how can you make them available? How do you operationalize them and make them available for your software applications to consume them? I think those are two examples. But I was saying generally it's about how do you talk to your teams about the decision-making process and how is that connected to your data, right? And then you have to make that data somehow available, right? Or to enable your teams to think and to view those data signals so they can start understanding, oh, this is happening because that reason or this data represents this outcome for the business, right? So enabling data to your customers, talking about or training them into analytical thinking, but also into more technical aspects is how do you enable your teams to be able to work with the data and to work with the data not from a theoretical perspective but a real practical approach. That's what we are doing with our teams. I know it's probably not a full or the only answer to that, but that's in our experience what we have been working on.
That's a very important insight that you talked about, that it's not just about one thing. So it's again about the first, the fundamentals. The fundamentals you talked about, the analytical thinking, which is not that it's only comes with AI, but we need to have that analytical thinking and build it even more stronger. And then comes the recent technology and application skills like machine learning, so that people can go forward and learn that machine. Saddam, I hope that answers your question well. Going to the next question is around when we see people, whenever a question regarding AI is asked, another question is that it is going to impact the workforce of the future, that so many unemployment and those kind of national concerns are also highlighted. So what is your take on those kind of concerns?
Um, yes, I think I I sit on the optimistic side of the table in that, and I believe that uh, I do believe that humans, we have the passion and the capability to create, right? And we are moved by creating, and we are moved by telling stories, and we're moved by building, right? And so bringing a technology that is going to allow us to create more, to build better products, to release, or even to build a knowledge base that is available to more people, right? I think that's going to help us do more things, right? So I don't think it's going to, will, that might replace some works, yeah, or some jobs, yes, maybe. I think that's going to happen. But then I do think that with this technology, we are just able to do more. So I, I don't have the right answer, right? But the way I could think about this is, imagine that you are working in a small team, and a small team, and it's not only about your full company or anything, right? It's your teams, 4 to 8 people, where you are building something. If you think about all of the potential that these tools can bring you and this technology, and you're able to do more, do you think your team is, are you going to replace your team just for the sake of replacing them and reduce cost, because you need to reduce cost, or because you think your team is not actually capable of thinking, right? Because they are only talking. So once you release the talking part, is your team going to be able to think and to build more and to deliver higher value because of the access to that technology? I hope the answer is that your team is able to think, right? Because if you don't believe so, then most likely you are just going to reduce the size of your team. You're going to take advantage of the cost efficiencies, and you are going to do most likely the same that you were doing before, just with efficiencies, or a bit more and plus the efficiencies. But I do think that we have the opportunity to just create more, right? And to create better things. So I I hope the teams that you are building, and that's my focus in my own teams, is that we are building teams that can think, right? And I believe they are going to be able just to create more, and we're going to deliver higher value. So I'm not concerned about replacing people. I'm concerned about, oh, this is amazing, and we're going to be thinking, right, and creating more. So that's my view. Again, I'm probably on a very optimistic side of that story, but I that's what I think.
And, that's a optimistic view, and I think we need to spread that optimistic view, because I think that's the only way ahead. We can't carry forward the other view, because definitely it's not sustainable. The only sustainable thing that I also agree with you is that think different, that AI is giving us capabilities to solve even more problems that we could not solve earlier. So we need to propagate that mindset, that it's giving us that ability. So we need to leverage that ability. It's a very beautiful insight that you shared, Anibal. And another concern whenever we talk about any AI implementation, especially at the national level, is regarding the responsible AI. That are we responsible? Do organizations or industry firms need to take some level of responsibility when they are following AI? Because there are certain issues. There are many issues like the legal and other things. So, what's your take on that? The responsible AI part.
I think it's super important, and everyone has to be um, aware of the implications and the foundations of building responsible AI. We're fully committed to that, and we're joining different organizations in different countries where we have operations, um, to make sure that we are not only following, or we're not only compliant, but that we are contributing to shaping up those best practices. Um, and I think it comes in many ways, right? Like, one is, how do you understand the limitations of the technology to prevent unexpected outcomes, or and those probably even and I mean, in a worst case scenario, damaging outcomes, right? Um, but the other part is also how to be responsible with the use of the technology that is available to us, uh, because there are going to be probably changes in how we look into this technology and how we are using this technology. A lot of things are going to happen around copywriting and copyrights and intellectual property that will unfold probably in the next 12 to 24 months. I don't know, maybe uh, earlier or later. But I think that will change also the way we are using some of the technologies today. But the technology is there. Like, even if the business model might change, I don't think that the technology is going in terms of the benefits are going to be available for the individuals and for the organizations. But I do think that we need to understand both the limitations and the implications of what we are doing, what we're using, and what we're building. Um, so for us, again, it's something super important. We are really investing in that as a very conscious effort, and it's something that every company has to understand. But I wouldn't suggest to hold on, or to stop exploring this, and to figuring out how to embrace AI, how to embrace this technology, until everything is resolved. Because I think by then it's going to be too late, and things are happening so fast that those companies that are embracing these technologies are going to be moving so much faster than anyone else. That is a huge risk if you are not thinking about how to adopt and how to build an AI strategy. So there are definitely different risks, but I encourage companies to to manage that risk and to start investing into their AI strategy.
That's very important that large companies are taking the due actions, but we need to be very fast in implementation as well. We can't just wait for the responsible AI and the way those judgments are made. That's very important. Again, as we were talking earlier, you talked about your that you want to you have a very deep mindset of making social impact, especially in the field of education, as we were having the conversation earlier. So how do you see the artificial intelligence transforming the education, because you are passionate about that field?
I just wrote an article in my newsletter about it, and I've been thinking a lot about that. I'm passionate about it. Um, I've been a teacher in my university alma mater. We have at Wizeline, I think, one of the key differentiators and one of the key kind of at the core of Wizeline is Wizeline Academy. So we have the opportunity not only to think, but actually to experience, right? Like how education is evolving, and what are the different challenges. Um, I and this is what I was writing, or what I shared in my article. Education is something that is still not available to everyone at the same level of quality, and it's actually pretty selective, right, in many ways. Um, and I remember when my best math teacher was early my second year in college, and it was amazing because it, it was a class that it was focused on proving the different the different equations, right? So it was deconstructing those equations to get to how, like, to actually think, right, instead of just dunking, instead of just applying rules. So I love that class, right? But I had the opportunity to be in that class, and it was the first time that I understood math in that way. And then a couple years ago, I read the book Joy of Math. I highly recommend that book. And it was the same feeling, like, wow, this is amazing, right? Like the understanding this from the source is just impressive because it allows you to think. Again, I had that opportunity. But that is actually something that could be available for everyone, right? Because the technology is there, right? And the access to technology is becoming cheaper and cheaper. So my view is that is how can we build those personalized experience, fully available, affordable, that can enable people, anyone, to actually have those very, like, immersive, high quality, fully available and affordable experiences. And I think the technology is there to create them. Or is getting there in many ways. So I do think that it's an amazing opportunity in terms of education to enable more people to learn, but also to learn how to think, and to have access to those tools that are not going to only give you information, but that are going to enable you thinking and creating in that process.
That's a very important insight, that to create the personal experience. I appreciate your thought about that, how the quality education can reach to the masses, because we know there are those differentiation that is there in the society. And to add to it, because I'm also passionate about education, so I think the role of self-directed learning is going to be beautifully combined together, that how students can get that self-directed learning approach, SDL, to further grow in their career. That's a beautiful thing. So I'll that brings me to my last question, because I appreciate the way you answered all the questions and provided the insight. Because at this point of time, every founder, or at least the CTO, might be thinking, data and AI, is my company ready for it? So when can they have that kind of feeling, and they can have that kind of thinking that, yeah, we are ready for AI?
I I can uh, share two thoughts there. One is, think about those processes in your company right now, or those in your value stream. Think about those steps or those processes where AI has already achieved the level of parity or even superiority of human capabilities. Like, if you are recommending content to your users, there is AI already better able to create those content recommendations in a personalized way, with the goal of achieving higher engagement or achieving higher conversion rate than any editor, right? Like, that's just true. If you are making decisions about production volumes or forecasting demand or forecasting anything, AI is already better than anyone in your team, right? Like, it, it's there, like the technology is there, right? So I will encourage you, if you find those, if you map your value stream and you start thinking about, okay, where are the key points, or the key moments in time where we could use data to make better decisions, or data to create better experiences. And it's most likely that in most of them, AI is ready, right? So if that's true, you have to look back and say, is my organization ready to enable that data? And most likely it's not. So you have to start thinking about, and you will find like, oh, but data is in that system, like it's super old, that it's not available. Data, we don't have the right quality. It's super hard because of security reasons or because of IT reasons that we cannot get that data. It takes so much time to actually build that dashboard or to clean up that. And my data flies into Excel files and then it comes back into a report. Like if you find those, you need to invest in building your data platform, right? Into building up that capability. But the answer from the business perspective is the organization ready for AI? Most likely it is, because otherwise you are losing the opportunity to become much more competitive. On the other hand is think about your processes, think about your team, think about everything where you could be doing a better job if you augment them with different tools or AI native solutions. Or like I was sharing, even the simplest, or I would say like the one that we have all in our minds is GitHub Copilot. Is your software engineering team already using GitHub Copilot? That will just release them time, right? And make them more productive. I bet that if you go to your legal team, to your marketing team, to your QA team, anyone in the organization could think about what is the toolkit that I can use that is going to enable me to do a better job. And so I will say that every business should be ready, because every business, I will say that it's going to find opportunities that the 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 AI outcomes have achieved the parity or superiority even of other like human decisions. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be for replacement purposes, right? It's going to be again to augment the organization to do more.
That's very insightful when we talk about that the way things are going to change, and with the speed of AI implementation, if the top leadership is always thinking, then it may not be a annual question, but it may be a question that we are asking ourselves on a weekly basis, that is my company today ready for AI? Because if we stop asking that question, we may get obsolete probably a month, that today we are ready for AI, but if we don't ask ourselves that question on a continuous basis, probably within a month we may feel like, okay, we are not ready for AI anymore, so we need to fast track our development. That's a very insightful and important message, and with that last message we would like to close our VectoScalar Tech Talk. And thanks, Anibal, for taking out time and sharing your precious expertise and wisdom with our viewers. Thanks again.
Thank you, Vikas. It's a pleasure, and hopefully we can chat again soon.
Sure. And thanks, audience, for watching the show. And in future, people who are going to watch this show in future, in case you have any question, do type in the comment box below, and we'll make sure that we try to answer all your queries in future as well. With that, see ya. Have a nice day ahead and enjoy the festivities. Bye bye.